I feel so excited to be here today. I was struggling to set up my background, and I guess some things never work, no matter how much you try. So, but happy International Youth Day, everybody. Today I'm talking on the topic Global Citizenship Starts at Home, Building Intercultural Understanding Through Sustained Civic Action. Please go to the next slide. So, a little bit about me. If you can go to the next slide, Jordan. Yeah. So, the firstborn in a family of three from a community called Umuobiala in the Sukwata local government area of Abia State, Nigeria. Raised by my grandparents. I initially wanted to be a banker, then a lawyer, now neither. But I work to empower young people to participate in elections, demand accountability, and advance good governance in their communities. I guess that's somehow related to law. And this work has helped me engage over 5 million citizens across 3,000 plus communities in Nigeria, advocating for social change. Next slide, please. So today's conversation is really crucial, and we'll be looking at the youth perspective around civic engagement, why global citizenship starts at home, the challenges we face as young people in driving civic engagement initiatives, my journey through local civic action, what sustained civic action looks like in today's world, the intercultural link I've seen, our global world, and answering also the very crucial question, where do we start in driving civic engagement in our communities, but with a global view? And the expectation from me is that at the end of this conversation, we come out with some clarity on what to do to advance civic action across the world, particularly in our communities, and also come out inspired action and make our communities better. Next slide. So, talking about the youth perspective, a famous quote comes to mind from Osha, who said that the more youth begin to recognize that they have a voice, the more change is possible. So in today's world, the youth face different kind of issues, and I'm going to talk about those issues in the next slide. But I think a common issue just to point out that we face is the issue of connection and addiction to our phones. We like to take pictures, we like to take selfies, and everybody wants to, post all of this on the social media from time to time. But beyond that, there are real issues that we face. And if you can go to the next slide, I'll be happy to point some of those issues out. These are issues that I've had to deal with in my work. And these challenges range from political and social tensions in our communities and countries, cultural intolerance and discrimination, youth disengagement in governance, doubt, self-doubt, very critical problem that I've seen over time, especially among young civic actors. And the very big one, global problems that feel distant until they hit home. The COVID-19 pandemic is a very good example, but beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, we have serious governance issues and policy challenges that affect young people across the world. But sometimes we think that these challenges are not within us. We think that they are too far away, forgetting that now, the world is smaller with the advent of technology. I used to hear that the world is a global village, but now I came up with a different concept to say that the world is now a global hamlet. It's no longer a village because we are now much smaller than a village. So whatever affects one part of the world affects everyone, maybe directly or indirectly. And this is why civic engagement is really important. And this is what necessitated my action in my local community. If you can go to the next slide, I'll talk about how, I've gone through in my journey to lead civic action in my communities. I identified a problem. Please go to the next slide, Jordan. Identify the problem. The problem basically is people are not as engaged. But before I really talk about this problem, I also want to establish one of the things that inspired me to take action in my community. Is the understanding that global citizenship starts at home. Most times we want to solve problems and we look at the big problems to solve, not realizing and actually affirming the fact that these problems are mostly local. So why do I believe, or why did I observe, or how did I observe that these problems start at home? I came to understand that we are formed at home. Every one of us is coming from somewhere. So that formation is very critical because it is at that level that whatever we become today is made possible, right? This is what informed my action at the local level. And then, of course, understanding that the local skills, most of the skills we have today, some of them we started developing in our local communities, in our families. And the very big conversation around diversity actually starts at home because, for me personally, I can't even mention how many times I've had disagreements with my parents. I can't mention how many times I've had, some disagreements with my siblings. We are members of same family, but we have different views on different subjects, right? So that understanding that we are different people, that inculcation of the idea of, unity and diversity starts at home. And I think really that global citizenship starts at home. But beyond that, we'll go to the next slide where we'll talk about, having heard and learned the importance of starting at home, what I did and how I mobilized young people to lead political intervention in my state and country. So here I was with young people in a state very close to mine. My state is Abia State in Nigeria. This was in Imo State, a neighboring state. After the intervention that I had with my team, of course, I founded a youth organization called the Progressive Abia Youth, where we empower young people to speak up and own their political space. After the intervention, the social intervention that I led in my state, a number of people reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you come do this in our states in Imo?" And I said, yes. What we did was to go in there, mobilize young people. There were a lot of issues ranging from insecurity and all of that. But through our intervention, we got these young people to participate in the election. And today, they are thankful because they feel like they belong to a government. They contributed to its formation, and they are more engaged now than ever. Please go to the next slide. So beyond getting these young people to participate in the elections, I also had to get them to go into their communities, identify the problems that are facing them in those communities, put them together into a document and present them to the political leaders to say, hey guys, you have emerged as political leaders, people making decisions for us, but we are from these communities, we understand what affects us. But this time, we're not just staying and complaining, on the sidelines. We want to engage you critically to find solutions and also partner with you to solve this problem. So through this partnership, through this effort, these young people were able to develop a document that they submitted to political decision makers in their state, in Abia particularly, and of course, in the neighboring state, Imo State. And this has been a model that other people have had to copy across the country as well. So you can go to the next slide. Let's talk about how these efforts are sustained and the importance of really sustaining civic action. So beyond getting young people to identify gaps in their communities and engage these political leaders to find solutions, we developed an infographic that helps us to track government expenditures quarterly. So when government says, when they release their financial report to say we have spent this amount of money, we get the young people to assess the financial report, and we develop an infographic that shows the citizens how these monies are spent. So it's a sustained process of not just participating in elections, but this time staying involved in the process to make sure that the dividends of democracy are delivered to the grassroots. So let's go to the next slide and talk about the effect of this sustained civic action and the significance of the work we've done. So through the Work to Good Governance project, of course, the infographic that I showed is an outcome of the Work to Good Governance project. We were able to mobilize these young people to actually go to the communities and assess the level of, the state of primary healthcare and basic education. So we were doing a monthly update on how the infrastructure is in the local communities and how the government programs and projects are really touching the lives of those at the grassroots. So you can see that this is not a pleasant sight because this is one of the pictures that we got in the course of our intervention. But thanks to that effort, thanks to engaging those making decisions, if you can go to the next slide, you see that the government introduced a program that was able to deliver about 100, 200 primary healthcare centers renovated across 184 wards in the state. Now, I talk about the ripple effect of our actions, especially as civic actors. Here you see Muslim mothers who are in a better location, taking care of their babies, obviously excited, but they probably may not know anything about me or the young people that led this intervention. But through our efforts, their lives are impacted. And that's what civic action can do, especially when you tailor it down to grassroots engagement. Let's go to the next slide. So beyond this, again, it is not, I've come to realize that we are the same, even in the midst of the diversities that we see, the cultural differences, whether you're from Asia, whether you're from the United States or Africa or Europe, wherever you come from, you want to be happy. We all want to be happy. Young people want to live a happy life, right? So despite our cultural differences, we want the same things. We probably may not agree on how we're going to get there, but it is an obvious fact that we just want to have a better life. We just want to enjoy our time here on earth and leave a lasting legacy for those coming behind us. And this is very instructive because if you can go to the next slide, you observe that, we have different problems, but most of the time, these problems are interconnected. Please go to the next slide. These problems are interconnected in different ways. So through my fellowship experience, I was involved in community service. And, I learned that the issues that affect us are almost the same. Out of the 8.1 billion people across the world, about 40% are struggling with health issues, 40% have conflict issues, economic crisis about 47%, poverty and inequality, more than 50% of the global population are facing this crisis, climate change, 40 to 50% face these issues. We live in a global world. It's a term that comes from the word global and local. Yes, we have a global community, but this community is made up of local components, and each of us form a part of that local community that, that fits into the whole. And this is what I learned in my fellowship, that the problems I thought I was facing at home, you also have some of them in the United States, maybe in different, in varying amounts, but essentially people face these issues. And one of the things I think we should really focus on, in this year's International Youth Day celebration is to engage young people to be more involved in the local communities and start speaking up on issues that affect them. Please go to the next slide. So, and I've gotten this question over and over again. Where do we start? Where should young people start in leading interventions in their community? And my answer is the same. It has always been the same. Start from your pain. What is that thing that you feel, is not right in your community? What is that thing that pains you? What is that pain point that affects you? That is something that you should start dealing with. And by the time you start trying to solve that problem, you identify or you come to realize that you're not the only person that feels that, bad about the problem. But people are not really as motivated to take action. But once you take action, you find a lot of people like you, just like I observed when I started leading the campaign for young people to be involved in the political process. More young people came to the party, and together, we worked hand in hand to make sure that we held, our government accountable. We're still doing a lot to advance that effort today. So we have to really make sure that we take action to deal with the pains we face in our communities to create the global world that each of us want to be a part of. So let's go to the next slide as I wrap up. So the next slide should be the last. Yeah. So I believe ultimately, no matter how much we talk, I believe that we cannot build a better world if we cannot build better communities. So my charge to every one of us is to get involved in our local communities, to contribute to the development of our communities, because by contributing to the development of our communities, we contribute to the global world that each of us would want to see. So thank you. Happy International Youth Day. And in my local language, we say Ndewo. So Ndewo to every one of us here today. Thank you.